We've interviewed a lot of seasoned pros from a variety of different industries to help you identify those little recipes of success. Like a cocktail, it's made with a dash of this and a squeeze of that and becomes so popular over time that it gets its own name. But today we're drinking the Worley Real Estate Network Special Reserve, that fine aged spirit that comes with grit and a punch in the nose. It's complex but refreshing, and it leaves you with the sophistication that you didn't know you could ever achieve. When people see you holding that glass, they say, dang, I should have ordered one of those. And what's interesting about this episode is that we put a spritz of Vrolio in there. Data, science, mentorship, and coaching, and when you combine all of that with the real estate agent as smart as Candice Amundson, you get results. Candice is smart. She's detailed, and she takes time to learn and understand things, and she has the courage to share her knowledge with whoever will listen. It's a beautifully lethal combination, and it's landed her with leads and lots of them. Candice has a story that's very special to me. She recently had the courage to leave an abusive relationship and move her son away as a single mom and started her real estate business. She started as most agents do, on a team or with good intentions, but soon realized that she was built for more and made the decision to specialize in working with investors. She joined WREN, aka Worley Real Estate Network tool, and has accomplished in months what many agents take years to do. In the last 30 days, she's been invited on 6 podcasts, has become the thought leader for investment acquisitions in her market, and sent me a text recently showing me one investor that has millions to deploy and wants to buy 5 properties now. Listen, you can watch the news and freak out about what's going to happen in this industry, or you can be like Candice. She's kicking butt and taking names because she's so giving, so smart, and is proving her value that's worth every dime of the money that you'd pay her. In fact, you'd be crazy not to do business with her. Here's the thing. As mentors and coaches, we cannot take credit for success. We lay the highway and our students do the driving, and it's my honor and privilege to share this data-backed investor agent with you. She's a super positive person that starts her day with gratitude and a relentless drive to win. Her opinions are based on facts, and if you're an investor looking to invest in Minnesota, you can stop looking because I found your agent. It's my pleasure to introduce you to my friend, Candice. You've been on a lot of podcasts lately.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of your podcast experiences lately. It's like 5 in 30 days.
Yeah.
Are you podcast fatigued? Do you have podcast fatigue?
No, not really. I think it's kind of funny because, like, you know, people ask you and they're like, what you're doing is so amazing. I want to tell people, or sometimes they're like, let's talk about your origin story. And I'm like, why is my story so like intriguing to people, or why would people want to know? You know, so, and usually people come with like questions, like they'll say, here's what you can prepare for. And then I have like created a pitch sheet too. So it has like already my bio on it. My pictures are on there. And then I attach like a headshot so people can use that. And like maybe some questions that they could feel free to ask me.
Yeah. It's like a media
kit.
Yeah.
And I learned that from somebody that Peter actually, like, he just knew this person that does podcasts, and she helps people, you know, and she said, you can even take this pitch sheet and you can send it to people to ask to be on their podcast. And I haven't really done that. It's just more people that are seeing me in my social media and then they reach out to me. Okay. But yeah, and everybody's different. Like, their levels of expertise are different. So sometimes you walk in and it's like a, you know, real recording studio and it's so official, and they're all like, they've got all these cameras going and they're like, just pay attention to this. And they're very, you know, trying to tell you what to do. And then there's some people are like, it's just a conversation.
This is my garage.
Yeah.
You know, that's my neighbor mowing his yard over there. Yeah.
Don't mind that thing over there. And there was one where he had his dog at the podcast.
Oh, really?
And it was very distracting because the dog was like not listening, and he was doing weird, like, I think he was like trying to chew a toy or like being distracting, and
squeaking
kinda,
in the background.
Yeah, it just kind of threw things off.
You're trying to tell a meaningful story, and there's this little like
yeah
in the background.
Yeah,
something like that.
It was so it's been kind of an array of different, you know, different people, different levels of how much they've done it and their expertise and things. But
what's your takeaway from doing all those podcasts?
I really hope that I inspire somebody to, like, most times it's investors, but there was one podcast I did where it was more like how to do your daily routine and how to set up your mindset and how to live from gratitude. And so that was a very different approach. And I thought if some person, just one person out there hears this message and starts doing something and believes in themselves and just snowballs from there, you know, I felt like I would be able to help a lot of people.
Yeah. Why is that important to you?
I think because there's been times in my life where I really felt worthy of needing help. And when I asked for help, because as you grow up, sometimes you have these like paradigms of, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, or if you ask for help, you're weak, or if you ask for money, then that shows weakness. And so I had those paradigms too from whatever environment I was in or how I was raised, you know, and I would just, you know, be like, okay, if I ask for help, this is going to make it seem like I can't, you know, be strong and independent and on my own. And so then I wanted to be that person just to extend the hand right away so people didn't have to go through that awkward asking. I would just come out and say, here's my secrets and here's what I've gone through so that you don't even have to ask me and feel weird. So I think that's where it comes from is my own insecurities about that. And as I've grown and I've learned about it, I think then that's what makes you a leader is knowing that that person needs to hear it or there's a need for you out there and then just fulfilling it somehow, you know.
Why do you think that we as entrepreneurs or just parents sometimes and why do you think we need to be strong and independent and on our own? Why do you think those are important things to society?
I think it's because like hierarchy and status is part of some of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just how we grew up, how we were in the environment that we were in. If you were in an opposite environment where it was just everybody just helped everybody, you know, and didn't expect anything out of it, I think that has a lot to do with like our society. You know, there's other cultures that they help out. Everybody has a part of it. And I think we're kind of disconnected from that.
What's interesting is that like Kelly and I realized as we're raising our kids is that they're intelligent and extremely moral and we love them and they're starting to become more independent. But we've realized that we have maybe failed a little bit in pushing them out of the nest a little bit because you really have to, it seems, because we love them so much. We want to keep them in the nest, but you have to help them become strong and independent and on their own so they can become good adults. So maybe that like driving force of parenting, or in some cases like Gen X, like me, there was no choice. We were just strong and independent and on our own at 6 years old. You know? I was coming home at 6th grade by myself. You know, luckily I had a big sister to help me cook some mac and cheese and stuff and to boil water. But I got really good at cooking ramen noodles 16 different ways, you know, because the ramen noodles every day for lunch, you got to get creative after a while. And so, but I never really, took any value from being strong and independent and on my own. I've always really valued teamwork. I've always really loved being a part of an ensemble, not always just taking focus or being the center of attention, but being a member of a team. And of course, I like being the leader of a team as well, because I feel like that's where my skill set lies. I was never going to be, I say this all the time around here, I say I'm describe myself as like Captain America because I'm not going to be the strongest Avenger, you know, like the Hulk or Thor or whatever your, you know, opinions are about that. Some people are pretty nerdy like me about it. Some people, I'll never be, you know, the guy that could fly the fastest or run the fastest. But I know who does. I have this unique ability to see people's special talents. And I can say, okay, you need to go here. You need to go here. You need to go here. And then this is the mission. Let's go do it. And then me, you can knock me down, but I could do this all day. You know, it's like that's kind of how I identify with superheroes. And it's interesting how different superheroes I would identify with at different stages of my career. Like when I was younger, it was much more Spider-Man. But now that I'm an older man, I'm like an 18-year-old I just don't identify with. Yeah. Do you have any heroes that you identify with? Not necessarily superheroes, but anybody that you just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like me.
I guess I've never really thought about that, but like definitely Wonder Woman. I think about, like, when you said superpowers, I always think about people always tell me I'm like Snow White, because whenever we go out into the wilderness, the woods, outside, animals just come.
Really?
And it's so funny because, when I was talking to somebody upstairs recently about when I first met my boyfriend, and we went on this hike and a fox ran across our path. And then later in our relationship at another location, another fox ran across. I'm like, there's something with the fox. We need to look this up. But so I think a lot of people have said that about me, about being like Snow White. I mean, I was in the veterinary career before I got into real estate. So
Okay.
I definitely can work with animals and have, shown to do that really well. But I think like Wonder Woman too, like you could literally take on anything. I've been through a lot of really hard challenges that mentally, physically, and I've been down to like my, worst point and had to build myself up again. And I think like those are the heroes, where they are in the rubble and they're just dusty and tired and thirsty and hungry. And you have to figure out a way, and I think being a single mom too has helped I've helped become that person, that like superhero. So I'm like a mix of all kinds of superheroes. I feel like I'm not just like one,
Yeah, I totally love that. So what is it that, is there anything worth sharing that you would want to talk about? Because I've actually used your example to so many people to inspire people to try to get them to make a decision to move forward. So I talk about you a lot when I'm coaching other people, because we're trying to inspire other people to action, because you are somebody who has taken such progressive action from a low point in your life up to now you're having some great successes. And I think we want the successes fast, but it's the appropriating, it's the walking out of the journey that really gets us there. So I don't think so many of us value the hard times, but really it's those hard times that make us who we are.
Yeah.
So how would you advise somebody who's maybe having a low point right now and maybe came across this podcast? It's like, I just want to get out of this.
Yeah, I think awareness is the first step. You first become aware of what it is. And it's okay to feel sad for yourself. I mean, looking back at some of the things that I went through were so horrific that if I shared that with people, they would never be able to imagine that happened to me.
Okay.
And so feel those feelings, be sad for your person in that time of their life, because they are going through something that's very sad and hard. And only live in that moment for a moment, though. You can sit and feel sad for yourself for 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks. You can keep going, so having the ability to recognize like, okay, this is really hard. This is like probably the lowest I've ever felt. And it's okay that I cry and I feel bad, and I'm going to give myself a time and pick myself up, and then do something that will help you in the moment that might get you just one step closer to that. So in my situation, I was in a domestic situation. So it was really daunting to think about going from where I'm at to getting somewhere else safely with my dog and my kid and myself. And so just taking a moment of like, the first thing was I started researching. So I started gathering information about how to talk to somebody, how to get somewhere, figure it out. And then I made the call. So that was like a big thing. And with domestic violence, you have to be very careful, because people can search your history on your computer, or they can get into your phone and kind of see what you're doing and be tipped off, which could lead to another,
Episode,
altercation or something. So that was one thing that it was a big step. And then I just kind of kept getting prouder of myself as I went. Like, I made that call and, it was so hard to do it, but I made the call, and I started a plan. So I think being aware and start to gather information. And then once you make that irrevocable decision, like, this is what I'm doing, then you can't go back on it. And then you just have to take a step and just kind of, I tell people all the time when I publicly speak for my charity, I tell people like any little step that you can make in talking to people is moving you closer, and you will get there. And it might take you 100 tries to leave your situation, or you might come up against roadblocks, but if you just keep going and just like a little bit every day, that's kind of how you get, in my opinion, how I got through it, but you have to get out there and talk to people, connect with people, because like you said, kind of the team and like getting your village together,
Yeah.
because you really need that to do something really strong. And so that was one thing that I started finding those people. And then I was like, I can do this. I can really do this. If I have lawyers to help me and I have this person to be at the courthouse with me. And I kind of started lining up my plan because I had the support behind me now to do it.
Did you have a real estate license? Were you an agent when you were going through all this, or did you become an agent after everything?
It was after.
Okay.
Yep. So I was in the veterinary field and I just was reaching a point where I was like, I can't make any more money doing this. I've done every job. I've managed hospitals. I've worked poison control. I created positions there to be the lead, person that everybody goes to. When everybody would come in from out of state, I would take them around and show them the town and where to eat and where to go. So I was always a host of our company, and I was always kind of like a cheerleader. And I just reached a ceiling and I said, I can't serve enough people anymore and I can't make any money. And I'm a single parent, so I need to figure this out.
Yeah. So did you get your real estate license and start part-time, or did you just jump into it? Tell us about your early career.
Yeah, so I decided to do both at the same time. And so it meant a lot of like work during the day at the vet clinic. And then I would show houses at night, or I was doing open houses on the weekend. And I started out with Keller Williams. And so there was a lot of like education and training. And
how long ago was this?
That was 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I kind of started out doing that, and I was just working all the time. So I didn't really have a good...
Were you on a team?
No, I was solo.
Solo, okay.
Yeah, when I started out.
Great job. Just started out.
I did.
Love it.
Yeah. And
the
very first house I sold was my own townhouse. It was a pre-foreclosure sale that ended up being recorded on my credit report incorrectly for many years. So that really was a damper, because I was in a situation where technically it was like considered a foreclosure, but in the state of Minnesota, you have a redemption period. So you can still sell. I made a profit off the home, but that kind of started my career. I was like, great, now I made a sale, but now I've got like terrible credit and I can't buy a house.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me just tell you that when I was a national account executive at a big nationwide mortgage bank, I had the privilege to be able to see credit reports of super wealthy people getting like $2 million loans. And every single one of them had a bankruptcy on their credit report. Every single one of them had property going back to the bank. Those credit reports were the worst that I've ever seen, but they were like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and their credit scores were back up to 700 again. And in 2008, so many people didn't want to let their houses go and have to pay 50 grand. Or bring their life savings just to have an honorable exit. So they would do a strategic walkaway. They would let the bank have the property back, and the bank would eat the $80,000 deficiency. And then in 7 years, or even less than that now, their credit's fine and they're coming back. So I would encourage you in a way and tell you that's, if you haven't got it off of your credit report already, you're in good company. You're headed towards the multimillionaire wealth circle with a foreclosure on your credit report.
Yeah.
You can't get there without it. I'm not going to claim that, but I will say that I saw a lot of people with them.
Yeah. And I did. Luckily, I found a partner in Minnesota that was very familiar with this incorrect reporting and how to overcome that. And, so luckily, I am looking for my next property and then my investment property after that. So I've found a couple that I'm interested in, and they're off-market properties I found with a data tool I subscribe to. And so I'm excited about the future. But that was a big, rough start to the market. And during that time, it was definitely a buyer's market. So, sellers were doing a laundry list of things and offering concessions. And I mean, it was just an amazing buyer's market. So I love the contrast of starting there, because then I got to go through COVID, and now I'm back in this different market that we have low inventory. So the buyers are still a little bit in this hot seat, but we have multiple offer situations. So the sellers are, still holding the market. So it's really helped me kind of go from something that was so, obviously a buyer's market, lower priced homes and sitting on the market for a while, to where it is now. So I appreciate that contrast in there.
Well, a lot of times people even say right now, if you got into the real estate market anytime between like 2015 to now, you there's a lot of skills you haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
You know, because we were, especially for the last 2 years, just holding out buckets, catching deals.
Yeah.
And it didn't make it easy. I heard somebody say the other day that, oh, it was easy. Realtors make too much money because it was so easy. And that's not the case. It's actually quite
No.
insensitive to say that, because how many offers did we write on properties that were getting 17 offers at once?
Yeah.
I said these real estate agents are, especially new buyers agents, are writing offers, then they're not getting paid. They're showing property and they're not getting paid. You can't tell me that it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you've never done it before in your life. It's like waiting tables. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
going to tip that guy. Well, you wait tables, you know, and or you bartend and see what it's like to stand in a puddle of water, you know, until 1 a.m. every morning and listen to people and have to make drinks for servers and this and that, you know, and, you know, have somebody looking over your shoulder at the cash drawer to make sure somebody doesn't steal $1. You know, there's like the accountability as a bartender was insane, you know?
Yeah.
And it's much, much more heavy as a real estate agent because there's a lot of legal, there's a lot of procedural, there's a lot of compliance
Yeah.
and fiduciary responsibility and great care that we take for our clients. Can you describe to me a little bit about your early career and like the benchmarks that you kind of hit or faced, or some ahas you had getting to where you are now, like changes you made in your business, or maybe you joined a team or jumped off a team, or because I did all of that.
Yeah.
I started out independent, jumped on a team, went independent again, opened up my own brokerage, joined Keller Williams, went back to my own brokerage, joined EXP for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about your career.
I did feel like I did a little jumping too. So I started out kind of late in the year, and then I went on this little boutique brokerage, and I was there for maybe a month, and it was clearly not like this, the feel of it was, we like to buy houses and we fix them up ourselves and flip them. And in the meantime, we do real estate. And, you know, if you want, we can all create the systems together and recreate the wheel. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. So I quickly went over to Keller Williams as a solo agent. And I was there, I want to say I was there for maybe a year.
Okay.
And like, so my first couple of years into real estate, I was definitely successful. Like I didn't have trouble with bills or anything. I was still working part-time at the vet clinic. And so I had supplementing income that way. And then Chrissy Peterson came to me one day, and she was at the Keller Williams brokerage I was at, and said, I want to make a team. And if I were to pick anybody here, I want you to be on my team.
Cool.
And so I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? You know? So we started talking about like negotiating percentages and things, and how she was going to structure it differently from Keller Williams' model, which was like a 50-50. So, so to me, I was like, well, this seems a lot more fair, and we're going to work together on marketing. So I learned a lot from her. She was kind of like the early mentor that I had. And she was she did like business where she helped with events, like event planning and things. So she has always been like the event person. So if we ever do an event, I always collaborate with her still to this day, because she knows about how people are going to flow through and what kinds of things and how it's easy to pick up food. And I'm like, never think of these little tiny details. That,
You mean like open houses or like lunch and learns?
like client events.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, great.
we'd like to pool all of us realtors together in Minnesota, and we do a Santa event. So
Okay.
we have like a real Santa that comes in. He sings. He's got a microphone. He's got light show going on, and he comes in, and then everybody writes down all their clients' names, and then the kids. So we all have a gift there that comes directly from Santa at, you know, when they
Cool.
sit down with Santa. So it's always this huge production that we do, and every year people like love it. And we have a face painter that comes out, and so it's a big
Client
event.
appreciation. Just
Yeah.
thanks for being my client.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Come here so you don't have to go to the mall and stand in line for Santa. You can get like a personalized experience with us. And, you know, we have like cookie decorating station and all the fun
Yeah.
stuff. So she taught me kind of more of like hospitality and how to really love on your people. And then I was like, at this point, I think I'm ready to fly the coop. And then that's when I met you. And I was introduced to you from Carrie Briner, actually. And I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to be working with investors. I've started working with investors. I had my first break with a really cool investor. He was investing with his self-directed IRA. I learned so much about that. That was probably my best negotiating deal that I had done with him. I had negotiated, I should look this up. It was like $40,000 or $50,000 less than the list price. So it was like, I don't know how it happened. I even negotiated more during the inspection period. So we ended that deal, and he fixed it up up and flipped it. So I came to his open house, and he was like just boasting about how amazing I was, and I helped him get this awesome deal. And I was like, don't tell everybody, because I don't know how it happened, and I'm not gonna be able to repeat this for everybody.
That's great.
So I think that was kind of like my big break. And then I found Michael Podgy, and so I started investing myself into my IRA into vacant land. And so then, things just kind of kept taking off from there, and I've just been attracting more of those agents now, or those investors, because that's what I want to work with, and that's where my marketing goes, and that's who my ideal client is. So that's kind of where I got to today, but I had to, when I left my team with Chrissy, I had to rebrand, and I knew that was going to be a big cost for me. There's also, other associated costs with joining like a national or like a, nationwide brokerage team. So there was, some uncertainty there. And so I talked with my coach, Angie Gerber, and I said, something's drawing me to these people, and everyone's bringing me together, and the universe is telling me, and I can just feel it, these are my people. And so I kind of made the jump, and with your help too, of kind of transitioning smoothly, it worked out to be the best decision. And I think that's what led me here today. So,
well, cool. Let's drill down on that a little bit, but I want to find out, and thank you for saying those wonderful things. I appreciate that. Because that's why we do what we do, is to find people that are ready for more and then equip them to do that. And you're such a brilliant example of how we hope people move through the ladder. And like I was telling somebody in a conversation, I think you were there, is that you showed up as an accomplished agent. Most of the time we're alongside those people that are like, okay, I don't want to be a veterinarian anymore. I want to take some risk and take some of my time and start learning this. That's usually where we find people. Because that's how I had to get my start as a real estate broker, as a trainer, as a coach, as a mentor. I had to invite people to my firm that had never been in real estate before, because realtors are just a little competitive, and nobody wanted to just come running over to my firm. Like, who's this Jeremy Worley guy? He's not from around here. And so I really had to earn my way to a certain level of success by making sure that the people that came over and worked with us actually did see results in their life. And every agent that's why I'm so infatuated with your success, is because it's, in a way, it's a calling card for what we do. But not everybody applies the lessons the way you do. I mean, you really drill down, and you dig deep, and you study. And you apply it, and then you adjust, and you pivot, and you learn, and you're brilliant at adopting the strategy and taking action. I would say the most powerful thing about you that I know is just your ability to take action. And we ask you, like, I wanted to really talk to you, like you wanted to talk to us, because not everybody's a great fit for us. Because if we find people that are just really overly consumed with money, our personality test that I invented, I'm really looking for those people that have that Cobra sort of mentality, because I know there's certain things I can't untrain. Somebody's relationship with money, I can't untrain it. And especially if they're overly focused on money, I know they're not going to treat the client the right way. I know they're not going to serve the client the right way. And if my logo goes on somebody's marketing, I want to be sure that those people know that those people serve, right? Those people are going to make sure that client is taken care of, because honestly, that's the best way to do business. It creates a multiplication factor in your life. That, I mean, we've all done business with people who we know that were like, oh, that was a sale. And I just feel like a number now, kind of. And so that's not at all what we wanted to do. But did you make the move to EXP with Chrissy while you were at KW? Did you guys do that together, or was that?
Oh, that's a good question. Because of course Chrissy can't, try to tell me to do anything. And KW was very strict about how things happened. They weren't really happy because they thought that like Chrissy was trying to take people away or, that kind of thing. And so the conversation went, there's this woman named Carrie Briner, and I didn't know her at the time. But I knew that she was our previous team leader many years ago at this same location, and kind of like her story. So I knew she was very influential and was amazing at what she did. And then she said, I'm going to EXP, but you don't have to come, but it'd be really great if you came. I think you would love it. So would you like to schedule a call? And so we got on this 3-way call, and by halfway through, I was already made my decision. I was already going to come. I'm not, what am I going to do? Stand on that KW island by myself and fish around? It's like, no way. So then I just told him at the end of that call, I was like, well, I'm coming with you. And I just knew by the things that Carrie said, I just knew it was the right person. I could just feel there was something there. And I'm like, I need to go to the coaching. That's one thing I was missing at the time. So it was like a together thing, but she didn't at all make me feel pressured. I totally made the decision. But and it was helpful because we came over together, and then she was my leader. So she was in charge of kind of helping get the systems in place. And we were going through it together, even though she had, 5 more years of experience than I did. It was kind of like we were on the playing field together, and I was way ahead of technology than she was. So I was like, oh, I think we can do this. And I would just help figure things out. And I was like this silent little whisper that would come in and do something and, help out. So I felt like I had a purpose, but, it was definitely one of those things where, come if you'd like, but I wasn't going to stay on the island by myself. I wasn't going to do that.
Did a lot of people make a move over?
There was like a few people. She didn't have like a large team or anything. There was myself and another agent. So then of course us two had come. But then there was like other people that we of course, worked very closely with that decided to come, and they were just solo agents. So I think it was like the number of all of a sudden these people exiting and they're all associated with each other was like kind of a red flag.
Oh, gotcha.
But I mean, I think you see people's character when you go through those. And even leaving Chrissy's team, it was really sad and really hard.
Tell me about it a little bit.
I think when I had gone to her, she was thinking like, oh, you're making this decision so fast, and then how it affected her. So I didn't really think about how she might have to rebrand and, do things. That was kind of just like, this is what my cost is. I was looking at the numbers. So I wasn't, maybe as intentional about that conversation. I was more like, this is my choice. This is why the numbers make sense. And it was like very analytical transaction. And then I didn't really think so much about the emotion of how to transfer the message and handle that part. And so then after the fact, I found out that it hurt her feelings because of the way I kind of transferred the message to her. So then I kind of had to go back and repair that a little bit and say, I really didn't want to intend on having this long drawn out conversation of why I made a choice. And I just was, trying to deliver a message clear and concise. And I didn't take into consideration how this really affected you and how, sad it was kind of losing this. But maybe the fact if I would have told you it's not going to change how often we talk to each other and we're still going to be together, So once we had that conversation and I just kind of said to her, I wish I would have done this a little bit differently and felt a little bit more caring about your feelings. And so we repaired that relationship. And we are super close friend. I just texted her before I came here to see if she could show a house for me while I'm gone. So, I mean, we help each other a lot. And she said to me recently that we were talking about working with investors. And she had said, I really thought you were crazy when you said you were going to go and work only with investors. All I could think of is, great, you're going to drive around see 100 houses, never write an offer, write these lowball offers. And I was like, this is not how investors are. Right. So there must be some bad rap out there. There are something.
There are some that are. In fact, somebody will take a seminar and they'll get with a real estate agent and they'll do that very same thing. So those people aren't really real estate investors. They don't have the money. They're acting like investors.
Yeah.
And because real estate agents oftentimes work before they get paid, there's a certain investment. We just trust that our clients are going to buy a property, or that we realize that a certain amount of people that we show just aren't going to buy, and that's just business. But investors typically will look and look and look, and that it is something that they do. But then, just like anything else, as you become a really astute, smart, dedicated professional, you begin to stand out, and then you begin to ask all the questions up front that you need to ask. And you begin to ask, okay, so what is your goal? How can I help you? What's your, what cash on cash return are you looking for? a lot of investors will ask agents those questions, and the agents have this sort of deer in the headlights look,
Yeah.
and then they know this isn't my agent. Well, seasoned investor agents can ask investors those questions, and if they don't know, you can say, okay, no problem. This is your first investment property. We'd like to help you. Mm-hmm. When somebody is educated by a coach, sometimes that coach may not have, I mean like a guru type coach, that person may have only bought a few properties. You know, they may not have had the transactional experience, so they're coming in with a skewed view of how the real estate transaction should go.
Yeah.
And when in fact we live in this minefield all the time, I have always wondered, why would you not use a real estate agent? Because we live in this minefield. We know where the mines are.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't you want to step where I step and help me, you know, guide you? And oftentimes also part of being a good real estate agent is advising somebody when they should freak out and when they should not freak out, you know, because so many times people have the emotional reaction in a real estate transaction, and you're like, you know what? I see this every day.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to freak out about. And in some cases, you're like, you know what? This is a new one. So we're going to put these documents in place to protect you.
Yeah.
And if we don't hear back by this certain time, then we'll have to either terminate the contract or you'll be moving forward with a certain level of risk.
Yep.
And you just explain it. And then if they freak out, of course, they freak out. But just helping people understand that this is the pathway, this is my best advice for you. And they're so thankful to have those pathways and that somebody calmly lay out, okay, this is a new one.
Yep.
But we're going to either get an attorney involved, we're going to get a broker involved, we're going to get some, you know, and we collaborate.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't do that. So helping manage which is why I think real estate agents get so offended when their friends or family or whoever don't choose to do business with them. Because there's a level of closeness that happens with a really good real estate agent and a really good investor. And when that loyalty happens, you create a power team.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we've always coached people on is like, become a member of that person's power team. And of course, some of these coaches are like, you got to work with 3 real estate agents. You know, well, maybe you do, maybe you should. But for me, I want somebody that's going to answer the phone when I call them because I'm making multiple purchases with this person. It's the same as my banker. The banker is on my power team. And whenever I call my banker, the president of the bank, he answers the phone because I need to be able to get an answer or he'll call me back the same day. Yeah. Because he is endeavoring to make sure that he's available for my needs. And I used to be like, oh, you know what? I need 3 different bankers. And in fact, you do need 3 bankers because once you get a certain level of loans, like once you get over $1 million of loans with a bank, they're like, I don't know, you know, depending on your net worth at that point. So you have to spread the risk around to different banks. But the point is having a good banker on your power team, being able to make that phone call and get those answers is great. And I think most investors don't appreciate how a good real estate agent can earn them a ton of money. You know, if you're loyal to an agent will be loyal to you for sure. Yeah. So that's just some of the stuff that, you know, we teach people. And so when we met you after you had already gone to EXP, Carrie Briner also guided us through the transition process. Of course, we were an independent brokerage that became you know, affiliated with EXP. And it's such a really bigger family. It was so neat to begin to meet all these people from all around the place. And honestly, we had no idea. I knew I wanted to scale my business model outside of Branson, but I didn't know how really. Yeah. And we're still figuring it out a little bit, but I said, and originally I wasn't going to train anybody that wasn't in my revenue share family. Oh, yeah. Because those are the documents that I created. I'm like, this just totally makes sense. Yep. Because even if they leave EXP or if they leave my team, they're still in my revenue share family and there's some honor there. But I sat on it for a while after I met you and Peter, right? You guys joined the network right around the same time.
Yeah, we did. Yep. He was right before me.
And I had this huge aha moment and it was, these are some extremely quality people. So why would I miss out on the opportunity to be in relationship with these people because of money? Yeah, yeah. And so meeting you and meeting Peter it changed the way I do business because I was like, well, let's create a scenario that is a win-win scenario for people who are outside of our revenue share network, because
Yeah.
I still get the same joy if you are growing your network with what you've learned, because the older I get, maybe this is an old man thing, but I'm realizing that sometimes we're supposed to plant trees that
Yeah.
under whose shade we'll never sit,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I do love to run with a big family, because the bigger
Yeah.
we are, the more benefits we get, the
Yeah.
more widely respected we are, the easier it is for us to get business, because people then begin to look for that brand.
Yeah.
Or it becomes special to people. They're like, you know what? These agents have this philosophy and I want to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're growing. And it takes great agents like you, because I know you serve your clients. I know you do, because I know you as a person, and you're such a kind, caring, giving person who puts education first. And it's just been so fascinating to watch you succeed and grow, and to have these aha moments. And even as the market tightens up now, it's like we're proving the concept that you're now working with investors, and even at 8% interest rates, what are you seeing in your market right now?
Yeah, so I think a lot of my investors are either like worried about the interest rate, or they're trying to figure out how to find a solution to it. So there's some investors that don't care at all. Some of them are using cash, so it doesn't even like affect them at all.
Right.
But then there are some people that have multiple mortgages, and it does affect them. So they're getting creative. Like sometimes they're taking money out of one of the properties and doing like a HELOC, to cash out some money, put down on the next property. Some of them are even doing their IRA. So then they're just using their $300,000 they roll over into the IRA from a 401k, and then that gives them the freedom to get 3 properties, doing like 3 down payments and getting loans that way. But a lot of people are still in our market. The sellers are still paying for some of the concessions, so then they can buy down their points for a temporary period or a longer period. So I think there's always like a solution to it.
Great strategy.
Yeah, and sometimes we're seeing people are just offering more. So if they're financing it, they're just offering more and then asking for concessions, so the seller nets the same thing. But yeah, there's also other strategies I use that are a little bit different from like a normal sale for an investor. So sometimes the possession date can make a big difference. I've done dumpster clauses is what I call them. So if you see some kind of personal property or items in the home that, the seller wants to probably just walk away, and the buyer's willing to take that on, get a dumpster, get rid of it, so there's like a lot of creative things that I do, or offering to buy pizza or something if it's the winning offer, like some way to stand out amongst the crowd. So those are some of like the creative offer terms that we're doing. And so we're still getting the deals done. We're still sometimes getting them for lower, knowing that we're getting some concessions, or it's been on the market. Sometimes I target ones that have been on the market for longer, and sellers are more likely to make a deal no matter what. So there's a lot of different things happening, but I think in general, we have a low inventory problem in Minnesota. So anything that you can get under contract that you can find from people that have purchased during when the rates were too low, that's like the golden houses right now, because those people just don't want to move. It doesn't make sense for them. So,
Correct.
I have one client that is there's a cash buyer program that one of the lenders uses. So basically the lender buys the home for cash, and then the buyer, now they buy the property back from the lender, and they sell their home within a certain time frame. So basically they can move into this new home, get their old home sold, all set up for staging and everything, and sell it for top dollar. The idea is that you save money on the other side by using cash, and then you can sell your home at your own convenience and for top dollar. So I'm kind of like working with my vendors and finding different programs or different things that people can use so that they can get to where they want to go the easiest way. So I think it's just about being creative and talking to people. We meet with realtors locally. There's a group of like 20 plus of us. A lot of us are just solo agents, and we get together twice a month, and we talk about some of the struggles, off-market properties, ideas on how we can get creative with things. So
different brokerages, just agents hanging out? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are EXP because that's kind of who started it.
Okay.
But we invite people from different brokerages, and it's really not like a recruiting thing. Like, no one really talks about that.
Yeah.
It's just
super collaborative
ideas. And so I think like being involved with those things and hearing what people are doing, and then you're building relationships because then they usually list the properties. So I think that's a lot of my success is coming to these listings, and I know these agents because I've been at a conference with them, or, so I think that goes a long way, knowing the people in your market, because they're like, I know that agent shows up and she's going to make sure this transaction gets to close. And I think sometimes that helps you win. So
no doubt about it.
I do all the things.
Yeah, we compete, but we also collaborate, in a lot of ways. We cooperate.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting dynamic. And I used to, when I was transactional, I would try to go out to lunch with an agent in the market as often as I could, just different ones, just to break bread with people. Just because you're right, in those tough situations, it's nice to kind of know who people are, and to try to work for the benefit of both of our clients to make something happen, because somebody needs to move because of their grandkids, or somebody has a legit need. They have a moving truck that they only have for a certain number of days, and we have to solve some problems for our clients that sometimes are difficult to solve without collaboration and without emotion, and we have to solve them without emotion.
Right.
But it's hard because emotion is just there. It's in the way. It's actually made me, it's been difficult for me as a parent, because I try to remove emotion from parenting. And I think it maybe has potentially scarred my children a little bit, because I'm like, you can't cry. Please stop crying. Why are we crying here?
Yeah.
And so they've kind of learned, like, oh, okay, I shouldn't cry. Dad doesn't like it when we cry. And I've had to go back and say, no, it's okay to have emotion.
Yeah.
Please process. I'll because in my profession, it helps. Emotion doesn't help.
Yeah.
And it's the centrifugal force that causes the wheels to fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
But if we can keep the emotion down, we can hold the deal together, because cooler heads prevail.
Yeah.
And it's so funny being a broker. And by broker, I mean agent. I mean somebody who's in between two parties. The translation effect that we have to have when it's like, well, you tell that guy I don't like his offer, and you tell him to go stick it, and I'm not doing anything. And we're like, well, he said he's looking for something a little bit higher than that. Maybe if you would counter offer, we could keep the conversation going. Well, I'm not countering. I'm offended that he sent me a piece of paper with words on it. I can't believe it. They weren't the words I was looking for, nor were they have the numbers. And you tell that guy that he can go jump off a lake. And he said actually that he'd consider your offer. It was closer to this, Having to translate for buyers and sellers is a tough place to be. And I think for a lot of agents, it's where burnout happens. It's where...
Oh, yeah.
I think, this is my opinion, unless you're just extremely resilient to that level of emotion, I think most agents have about 10 good years before they need to replace that transactional income with some type of leadership income, some type of team structure, some type of real estate portfolio, or stock or revenue share through EXP, which is why I think that's such a revolutionary model.
Yeah.
KW was in the beginning with profit share, but it's an outdated model. And maybe EXP will be an outdated model someday, but for now, the cloud brokerages seem to be working. Yeah. And so also a cool thing about, and so this is exactly where I'm at in my career as well, and also trying to figure out how to solve problems for agents. Yeah. And so this is how I ended up at Vrolio, and how I ended up really digging into the data tool, because the more I started paying attention to Erica and the data tool over at Vrolio, I thought to myself, this is a greater return on our time. Like, to pay a certain amount a month for this level of access of information wins clients. Like one $300,000 sale will pay that cost of that data tool for a year. And I'm thinking, this is crazy not to do. I'm not a marketer though. I'm definitely have my skills are more in leadership and just relationship building. And so it was so the first thing I did is I went in and I negotiated a discount for the REN agents, the Worley Real Estate Network agents. And a lot of the agents on this team have jumped in, and they've started working with it, but not like you. Like you jumped into it and you just you did the same thing with my training as well. You just like consumed it. I don't know how to describe it, but you have the ability to sit and learn in detail and apply that I've never seen other people have that ability.
Yeah, but it only happens when I make that like irrevocable decision. So I think the pain starts getting too much, and then I'm like, I have to make a decision. So last year I went through a time, I think it was right around the time I started at the Ren Network. And I had gone like 3 or 4 months without a paycheck. And I had known from my previous years to set aside some money because there's going to be slow times. And I like just didn't set aside enough money. And I was scraping the barrel. And I'm like, why am I making these decisions? And what's going on? So I went through this really low part. And then the end of the year, I ended up having my best year yet last year. And in a market where many people suffered and didn't do well. And so I was like really proud of myself. And I said, okay, I got to take this money from these proceeds of all these sales, and I really need to put it to work. So then that was like the beginning of the year. I created my business plan in December, and I'm like, okay, if I really want something I've never had, I'm going to have to do a bunch of things I've never done. So what kinds of things are good with my personality, or what is going to like get me the most success, like set myself up for the activities that are going to be good, you know? And so I decided to put the money into the tool and do that every month. And then I said, okay, now I need to set up a time and say this many hours a week I'm going to dedicate towards learning, because if you get something and you don't use it, what's the point of having it? It's just money, you know? And so I'm like, I have to focus on learning this, you know? So I didn't feel like I had the confidence with the tool until I sat down and I did all the classes and I practiced a little bit. And then I started coming to the advanced calls so I could see what other people were doing. And then I was finding like questions that we weren't answering the classes. And I'm like, oh, I'm like really learning a lot. And then started finding different ways to use the tool for marketing, for finding listings, for finding clients, for referrals, like all these other things I could do with it. And then I started sharing it with like my local friends and realtors in my area. And then they were just like, oh my gosh, I need to have this. Do you want to share it on the tool? Do you want to, you know, so they wanted to collaborate. They wanted me to basically teach them everything and have the tool for them. Yeah. So I'm like, there's really a need for this. Yeah. So then I, you know, started going to my normal networking groups with investors, and I started sharing with them. And I started sharing with my lenders that specifically work with short-term and midterm, you know, I guess I would say any investor at that point. And so then I just started learning more. I put the time in. And so instead of like watching Netflix at night, I would watch one of your podcast videos, or I would watch a video that Erica did for us in the masterclass. And I would, in the car, I would listen to podcasts. And it was like, if I could just immerse myself in short-term rental all the time, I would have to remember something, right? I'd have, like, if I was always thinking it, doing it, and I was talking to my boyfriend about, you know, this property would be so cool, and I found this property, and we could buy all these properties, and or we could sell them, or, you know, help all these people. Yeah. So then I started getting excited by finding opportunities. And when I first did my first investigative thing was I was on the tool, and I looked for low performing single family homes in a certain city. And I found this one, and I opened up the Airbnb listing, and I could see the address on there. So this was before I knew that like Erica had the ability to give me the addresses. Yeah. So I was like, the super investigation, I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I can see it's 1400. So then I, you know, found it on the map, and I looked it up on the MLS, and then I found that it was listed and canceled. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they still want to sell. I need to buy this house, and started coming up with quickly a list of all the reasons why I should buy this house, you know? And so I started getting really excited once I started finding these deals and these opportunities. And I'm like, this is the way, because now I'm not just like every other agent. I have something that I know like one or two people in Minnesota at that time had it, because I asked Erica, like, is anybody in Minnesota subscribed to the tool? No, there was one person. So I think there's something with that. Like, I knew I have the confidence because no one else is doing it. So that was really powerful. And then I just kept going with it, spending the hours every week, going to the calls every week. And there was things that would come up and I would have to say, hey, I've got a call. Let's plan to do it at this time. And sometimes I would do Zoom in my car or whatever it was. But I made a point to this is a non-negotiable. I'm always going to show up for this, or I'm going to always do these things. And I think then once I just did it consistently over time, and then I would learn something new and I would apply it again, and I'd have my VA do something for me. So it just kind of, I think, spiraled from there. And then I joined the referral network. So that's an official contract that you sign. You have to be interviewed. So it's not like anybody can just join this network.
Sure.
So I did, I asked, Tori was her name. She was the one that was interviewing me. And at the time I'm like, yeah, I just got a class signed up. I'm going to have people come. I'm going to talk about the data tool and how I use it to find deals. And she was super excited. And so then I became a member of the referral network. And then the next day I had 6 referrals. And so I think there's just been opportunity. People have money. They have it sometimes in certain markets that aren't performing well. And they're like, why can't I just take this money out, move it over here?
Yeah.
So I feel like when people hear about it, the more I'm talking about it and sharing my market, people are like, I want in,
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to be like the one person that's in Minnesota using the tool, or kind of the one to start it, because, this market is very saturated. Short-term rentals have been around forever, it seems like here. And my market, it's a little different. People are like, what? Do you have a short-term rental in a suburb and it's making 20% cap rate? That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's no lake there. So people, it's like almost you have to educate people that this is a really good market. And once they see the numbers, that's all they need to see.
Right. It's
They're
no
like,
longer a sales pitch. It's it's look at this computer screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've just gotten quicker with using technology, and I've met Peter and learning some of his systems and things like that. I've started to do some things like Loom videos where someone says, I'm interested in the Stillwater market. And so I can go into the data tool and I can do a quick 2-minute video and say, this is what I think about this market. And right away, that person, he was somebody that is talking about being in syndication and doing a lot of bigger projects together with other people. He became trusted in me in a moment because I sent him that video. He told me his wife was more of the decision maker. And so I said, well, send this to your wife. Let me know what she thinks and we'll get together. And so just something as simple as that, sharing the tool with them in a quick video. I didn't have to spend much time of my day and, scheduling Zoom calls that I think doing data demos on the tool is exhausting. So as if you have more of a purpose and say, let's look at the condos in Minneapolis, or let's look at this particular market. And then we can look at any market, we can go from there. So it kind of helps people see I'm an expert and I practice it and this is why. So it kind of speaks for itself.
You bet. You've done such a great job with it. In fact, you've done in 30 days on the tool what it's taken a lot of my agents years to accomplish.
Yeah.
Truly. So it just speaks to the need to automate and educate with real data. And it's hard to refute it. You know, it is. And so I just admire you for jumping in with both feet. It's truly an honor to know you. You're such a classy human being.
Classy.
And we just all of us, we just feel like family.
Yeah.
You just are just absolutely a special human being that deeply cares about other people, and it just comes off of you.
Yeah.
And so that's super, super nice to see, because I can tell you that I've trained people that grow up to be douchebags. And I decided I'm not doing it anymore. I care now more about the intent, the reason why somebody wants to do something, because people are loyal when they're poor, and then once they make money, it's shocking sometimes to see who people become. I don't want to do that anymore. I think that's why I've just poured my faith into my business a little bit more, because with that, I can. That's not always the case. I mean, I know some greedy Christians out there too that I just can't stand, and I've actually had words with people who have been spiritual big brothers to me. I don't like the way they deal with money, but that's between them and whoever. I have decided to put a tighter entrance requirement on who we work with, just because I want people to grow up and use their resources for good.
Yeah.
And you don't always know that about certain people, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Candace, how would you advise a baby agent right now? Somebody jumping into the business right now?
Yeah, I think the first thing is finding like a group of people that are like doing more than what you want to do, because I think you need to show up in those rooms with those people all the time, because you have to like learn little secrets. What does a person like that drink? How do they act? You just kind of have to learn all the things from the people that are successful and doing really well. And then I would say get into a niche. So find something that, and it might take you a while. Like I didn't know right away that I wanted to work with investors, but finding a niche where you can just go all in on one thing, because I think we all kind of start out and it's like, I'll work with anybody from a first-time home buyer to a VA buyer to somebody that's downsizing into assisted living.
Maybe luxury, maybe storage units.
Yeah.
Just something that you're an expert in.
Yeah. So finding something and then just going all in on that and just immersing yourself into it. And then I do think too, as a new agent, having systems in place is really big. So like your first couple transactions, you really do need to go through every single paper and all those contracts and understand them. And then, everybody says a little bit different. Like sometimes they'll say after this many sales, then hire a TC or, but the idea is that you can do it on your own. So if something happens with a system, that you can step in and take care of things. But like, I really think that's important. Finding a TC right away has given me back so much more time. And that it also empowers me to like be able to kind of just put things off on that person, so that I feel like I don't have to do everything. So leveraging those people. And then as like you have more finances and, you're paying your bills and things are kind of evening out, maybe then considering adding like an admin or like a virtual assistant. So I think, starting with really good people and influences, coaches, mentors, whoever you're surrounding yourself with, getting yourself into rooms and kind of feeling uncomfortable, that's going to help you grow the most. They're like, I'm very extroverted and I'm a public speaker. I teach, I do all those things, but it's still hard for me sometimes to get into a room, like go to a meeting or something. 'Cause I get there and I'm like, what am I doing here? Who cares if I'm here? Like I have all these limiting beliefs and things that come up. And so it's still a struggle for me sometimes just to get in the room. And then obviously it's good after that. So I think like a brand new agent, get in the rooms. You're going to feel awkward. Just be awkward. Do it, get over it. Find that person that like you can attach your cart to and just kind of go with that. And I do find that I'm that person for a lot of people. And just not making someone feel bad for asking a question or just kind of helping them navigate things and saying, this is what I've done when this happened. So you're not like telling what to do, just kind of suggesting things. So I think a new agent has to find a mentor or group or something, get into a niche, get your systems in place and, just kind of work towards that every day and do one little thing every day that's going to get you to that end goal, So for me, if I break things down, it's so much easier. Like if you need this much revenue, this is how many calls, appointments, this is how many hours a day, kind of just breaking it down and figuring out, what things are the most important, what time of day you do that, getting a schedule going. So I think all of that can come from like good mentorship and who you're surrounding yourself with.
Okay. That's good advice. Anything else you would want to share that you haven't got a chance to share yet, maybe to somebody listening? Somebody who wants to get a leg up in the world, maybe get into real estate, maybe invest in property, anything else that maybe you haven't shared that you'd like to?
I think just being, when you start to dream about things, to really start vividly dreaming about how you want that to happen and don't like get stopped by, I don't have the money or I don't have the expertise or whatever it is, to just really push through it, because I've found that you don't need money for buying real estate or you don't need this or that to get where you're going. So I think just taking the risk and doing it is like so much reward. So investing in real estate, I can't imagine why anybody would ever think anything bad about that. Like I think, looking at stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me, so I think finding your people and just kind of working towards that goal, like get the goal, just don't let anything stop you. There's going to be people, that early on were like, real estate's going to be hard. You're not going to be able to do it. How are you going to be able to provide? You're a single mom, and it just fueled me up. And I was like, watch me. Do this. And I just kind of, and I wasn't very like out there, like, fine, I'm going to do it. It was just kind of this internal thing. But I don't think if I would have like met those people and taken those risks, I wouldn't have learned that you don't need this and you don't need that. You don't have to have 5 degrees in something. You don't have to have this imposter syndrome. You can be whoever you want to be. You can claim it. You can do it, So I think, try to get that mindset out of your head and focus on getting there, and don't letting things stop you. That was something I had to learn early on.
That's great. Good advice. Any good deals in Minnesota right now?
Yes.
Okay. So
there's deals from condos with an HOA that are pretty low entry costs. We're talking anywhere from like condo in St. Paul at $98,000. Obviously your revenue is going to be a little bit lower, but still like cap rates over 10, which I feel is a great deal.
Yeah.
We have some really great options for single family. We even have really cool like duplex up to quadplex with ADUs. So you can really have 6 individual, vacation rentals going at the same time. So there's some really great opportunities there. I mean, our price point in general compared to like the general US, I would say, is pretty low. I mean, you can find those quadplexes for anywhere between like 600 to $1 million. But that's 5 different businesses running at the same time, 2-bedroom units.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. And I mean, for now, we don't have a ton of restrictions, and most of the neighborhood and everything is pretty pro short-term rentals. They see the value of the, boosting the economy, and we love tourists. I think like Minnesota nice. We love to like come over. I'll make you a hot dish, and we'll have some pie and we'll go fish off the dock afterwards.
That's
and,
great.
With our little pieces of corn, we'll just go fish with that, So I think it's just like our culture in Minnesota too. I have a client that's moving here from North Carolina, and they love it. They love everything they've read, and they thought it just sounds great except for the snow and the cold. So it's funny to kind of talk about all the really great things. I'm like, in the wintertime, you just don't go outside, or you just literally wear a Sherpa, everything. You cover everything. Just
read books.
Yeah.
Sit by a fire. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do, we have fun things too. Like sometimes people come from the outside and they'll make ice mazes or castles or, things where we can go outside and bundle up and do. So we make it fun, but I think there's just so many different, they're all 4 seasons are great times to come to Minnesota for different things. So I think if you just know when to go there and what to do at that time when you come there, I think there's so much to offer, and I love it. I think Minnesota is one of the most beautiful places. So
that's cool.
Yeah, come to Minnesota.
I will. Well, thank you for coming down here. It's so nice to have an interview with you in person. I know we were going to do one over Zoom, but it's just nice to see you in person. And your son is such an amazing kid. He's such a awesome. He's great. He was such a treasure. And Kelly said she really enjoyed taking care of him last night, making sure he was comfortable and all that.
Yeah, it was really funny watching. I wish she could have been there because there was a scramble because, the phone was dying. So she's like, oh, let's get it plugged in. So she plugged it in and they got it before his phone died. But it was fun to see Kelly in that childish kind of moment. Then I was like, it just kind of felt like family. We were all just it was a holiday.
Absolutely.
We were all hanging out. You know, it was fun. Yeah.
Well, good to see you. And thanks for all the wisdom that you shared. And we're going to put your email and other contact info, whatever you want in there. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to invest in Minnesota can give you a ring.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We'll see you. Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at WorleyRealEstateNetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.